Indeed. Welcome to the Sunday Night Hanging, well, right here on Sundays, because it's easier that way. I'm Ben. Please subscribe if you're new, and welcome back if you're returning. Speaking of returning, we have a good friend out of, I don't know where, Steve from Boston in the house.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Great to have you back, my friend.
Great to be here. That's right. We are live. That's right. You're a person on the other side. You know, I do these. I talk to a camera. I don't really talk to other people. That's right. I'm live with another person right now.
Yeah. Right. It's not solo. It's not just me and Buddy.
I know. Though we will see if Buddy makes an appearance.
Right.
My son went back to school, and he's a very needy cat.
Yeah, we may hear my needy cat at some point too. So she can howl from upstairs across the house, and you'll still hear it clear as a bell through my mic. It's perfect. Let's see, we got a bunch of the usual suspects in here already. Let's see, we got Charles 75N, All Dave, All Night, My Knees Hurt, Michael Krause. He was shopping in the Mass area the other day. Where was he at? Big PRS store up there. Is that Ray's Music, I want to say? Something like that. Absolute Mayhem. Of course, Terry's 3Gs, moderator to the stars. Patrick Zed, Ferd Burfel, Jeff K. There's Frank and Hip and Lawnmower Tapes and Retro Puffer. Hey. Symmetry. Dave Chase. Hip Metalworks. Paul P. Man Howland. Nice. Ben Olmark. Billy Baloney. Joe, Bonkers. We've got all kind of Herb, a Fireside Studio, of course. Billy Baloney. It's Dave Chase up in New Hampshire. There's Buddy Cat. See that? Yeah, that's. It's like, oh, this is not Saturday night, but I'll come and see what's going on.
He heard me talking.
Welcome back, Simon Hosford, your legend, channel member.
He wants to know who I'm cheating with.
Right. Hobo Roadies in the house. Christopher Vella, also new channel member. Awesome.
Wait, buddy. Mm-hmm. Sure. Wow. Buddy. It's Buddy.
What's up, Blackjack Guitar? Dennis Ellis. John G. Jordan. Welcome. Guitared it. Been a minute. Great to see all you guys in here. Nelson Rodriguez, the legend. Jason Lindholm. JP Page 2. Michael Easter. Bryce. Thomas Moore, Rico B. Wow, lots of folks in here. Lawnmower Taste says, nice shirt, Ben. Well, thanks. Yeah, rocking the Bowie tonight. Why not? Mr. Anderson, John DeShane. Nice. Cool Tunes Made Easy, who just put out a lesson video for Pink Floyd's Breathe, which is always a great song to play.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Given that. Sometimes I like to give Buddy the old choppa choppa. Choppa choppa chop chop. Hiya.
Nice. What's up, Seth? Great show earlier today with Charles 75N. Guitar Safari. They're talking about dream builds. That gets expensive dream builds real fast. I will have all the flame. There are not enough A's to stamp on the wood. Say how flamey it is.
Infinite A's.
Exactly. It was funny. I saw your post last week, the photo of the trailer with the wood.
Oh, yeah.
So Monday night, I saw Speaker dropped into my chat. And I'm like, hey, and I go on this whole big thing about your trailer. And he's like, yeah, I was there. Oh, well.
Yeah.
You already know. Thanks.
Like, hey, did you see he got the wood And you know, speaker's like, yeah, I was with him. I helped him put it on the back of the trailer.
Yeah, that's
I
what I got.
literally cinched up the strap. Hold on one sec.
It's quality entertainment for everybody involved. Sup, Surf B says, I like Ed Sheeran, but I like Steve from Boston better. Thanks.
I'm getting this, getting a bit of the buddy itch.
Quentin James. Nice. If you guys have any comments for either of us, feel free to ask away. We'll be talking Canadiana, weather.
Sure.
Trailers, of course.
Of course.
The amount of humidity this year, Steve.
We are
usually the sump pump,
right now,
barring a major flood, the sump pump goes off after from like Memorial Day to Labor Day. You're usually pretty good. No, I actually had a flood down here in July.
Yeah, we can get heavy rain in the summer, but we had more like steady rain all summer.
Mm-hmm.
And but these last couple of weeks, it has just been brutal. Yeah. Really ridiculously high. We had our longest stretch of like plus 85-degree weather, like all summer came like in the last 10 days. And we had like the highest humidity of the entire summer in the last 10 days. So it's just been crazy. All right, come on. Yeah, you're wearing out. You're welcome here, buddy.
The lawn finally browned out in the last week, which is usually happens mid-July. But instead, no, you're mowing the lawn and half of it's mushrooms. It's like, come on. The water table's just up so much.
We ours has been pretty good. We went through a little bit in August where it dried out a little bit, but it came roaring back with the humidity. It is just brutally humid out right now. Like they say the dew points run in like 20, 25 degrees above normal.
Right.
So it is sticky and rainy with all that humidity in the air. The second the sun comes out, it just turns it all into friggin' thunderstorms. So we had crazy thunderstorms today. Really bad.
Wow.
Coming through. But they don't last very long.
Right.
Maybe an hour or two. And then they bring off
I swear I was living in Florida this year. We'd have the mid-afternoon showers every day. Yeah.
Yeah. It just bubbles up all that. We have been like, it's so funny because they're talking about, they're like, our pattern like sets up like 6 weeks at a time.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this like 6-week pattern. And they go, but we broke out of it for like a couple of days and we fell right back into it again for another 6 weeks. And they go, and so that should end it right around mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
We fell right back in the same pattern again.
Yep.
And we're right back in it. This unsettled pattern with the friggin' jet stream over us. When you have the jet stream over you, you have like warm air on one side and cool air on the other. And it just, you're always getting turbulence, right? It's very unstable air.
Right.
And man, it has just been brutal. And I swear to God, it's set up for another 6 weeks. This isn't going to break till the end of this month.
Yeah. It's just
like ridiculous.
What's up, Mason? Oh, good to see you guys. Michael Easter asks, he's got a question for us. Do you think pine will become more prevalent for guitars if prized woods become more scarce / expensive?
Well, the Tele started out as a pine body. Right?
Yep.
The first Teles were pine. Problem is, pine has it depends. Pine has a lot of resin sap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just from like working with it, does it gum up the right? They choose this material, right? They don't want it so hard that it wears out the blades, so soft that it can't take a screw and really hold it in. Right? They don't want it like too expensive. Right? There's all these things that all come into like the wood that they choose. And certainly there's plenty of pine, but it's like working with it. Can you work with the pine?
Right.
And it doesn't. It certainly isn't going to eat up your blades or anything like that. It's too soft. But when it comes to like working with the resin and the saps and stuff like that, is it too much or is it easier? Right. Can you get a thick enough piece, or is it always going to be butcher block? It's a
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and you're probably going to want to cure it more like was it a Novo does the tempered pine bodies, which will essentially cured.
I noticed that that new Jackson, they put streaked ebony right in the description. They don't want to leave it to chance, and some of them weren't streaked, but they literally call it streaked ebony as if that's something to spec about. But it's like saying naughty pine. It's like, is that a good thing?
Right.
Yeah.
So, what are you saying? Are you saying you couldn't get the good ebony?
Well,
pure black ebony getting hard to find.
That's just it, because they fell so many trees. I guess it was like 20-1. Right? They fell like 20 trees before they found one that was perfectly black.
Right.
And the rest of them just got sort of discarded or used for other things, so didn't have the same value. So I think they were trying I think a lot of them just use dyes, to make it nice and even.
Yeah.
It's still ebony. And then but now there's a whole thing, probably just even the dyeing process is too expensive. So just use the streaks. We'll call it streaked ebony and say it's like a right.
Yeah. We'll own it. It'll be our thing.
That big knot in the middle of the fretboard. It's not a knot. It's an oversized bird's eye. We call it an eagle eye. Like, really? Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's eagle eye pine.
Right.
Like,
River Docs.
Yeah.
See Cousin Doug in the chat. Jose Ramirez. He says those new Jacksons are basically Charvels with a dinky body. Not a fan.
Yeah, I didn't like that it was. I thought that it was going to be a neck through. It was a little disappointing that it was a DK style bolt on.
I like that. Coot says ostrich eye.
Exactly, ostrich eye. And when I was in graduate school, there was a girl there. She had an ostrich coat. And you know anything about an ostrich coat? They're incredibly expensive. An ostrich coat will run you back then, this was like 1992, 1993. That coat would have been about $25,000.
Yeah.
And a lot of money for a coat. And I even said, I go, is that an ostrich coat? She goes, oh my God, how did you know that? As I read the Rob Report and dream.
Mayhem mentions a carbon fiber fretboard. I think I played a carbon fiber fretboarded guitar or something to that effect. It felt very weird.
I think Dean, who knows who owned them at that time, it's probably in the 90s, maybe the late 80s, early 90s. It was a Dean with I think they called it phenolic, right?
Right.
Fretboard. But it got branded as Rich Light, and as a premium product with Gibson for a while. They were doing all their custom work with
right.
That was just, Henry pouting about not being able to buy his ebony from bogus suppliers.
Right.
So he went to a non-wood. As soon as the new guy got in there, they went right back to ebony. Suddenly it wasn't a problem.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes I think you want to fail.
What's up, Wayne and Josh? Let's see here. There it is. Michael Easter again. He says, I find the Badlands Guitars business model to be fresh and smart. How about you guys? I love it.
You know what? It makes sense. You do a run, and it's a limited edition.
Yep.
And you make them to order. That way you don't overstock. I mean, it works out.
Yep. Yeah. I remember Phil was saying, if you sell it the run, we sell it the run. If we don't sell it out, well, then there's going to be that many of that run out.
Yeah.
And that way you're not stuck with a garage full of guitars, and
Right.
they're
If you
doing
put
it
100 up,
more or less cost. So you
Yeah.
get a great guitar at a great price point.
yeah, exactly. You
What's up,
put up,
Eddie?
you say there'll be 100 available, but if you only sell 93, it's not like you cancel it. You still do it. You just limit it to the 93 that were ordered.
Exactly. Guitarded was asking about SPS guitars.
I don't know
the
about
Steve
them.
Brown guitars, which he did a signature relic offset with humbuckers.
I've
Crowbar?
been on record with this. I'm going to repeat it. There's too many guitars.
There's a lot of guitars out there.
There's a lot of guitars. Do we need this many guitars? The answer is no. No, we don't.
And then just when you think there's all the guitars, then a company says, hey, remember this one we did for 3 years, 50 years ago? Well, we're bringing it back.
I know.
It's only a matter of time before the Gibson RD returns, Something calling music. Good to see Crowbar in here.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Crowbar?
My niece hurt says, flying V's rule. As long as you're standing and playing. Sitting, not so much.
Oh, yeah. What'd you get, Crowbar? Crowbar had a new guitar day.
Ooh, nice. I shot a demo on a flying V last week, and I should not have done that as my first demo of the day. It was just a train wreck. The playing, because it was awkward, it was terrible. But on the other hand, I was like, it's done. It's out of the way.
A Sire S7.
Ooh.
Do you know? I don't know Sire. Do you know Sire?
Sire, yes. I played some Sires this spring. Who does Sire? Larry Carlton has the signature Sire, I believe. Which is their take on a Strat. And it was very nice and Stratty. Very decent. Yeah, I want to say they're like import, but Q&A'd here. So kind of best of both.
Is Sire Larry's brand?
I think so, maybe.
Yeah, I think so too. That's ringing a bell now. Superfan
Gary Davlin.
Hello, Gary.
Scott Brockway. Guitar Man 45 says, I went shopping today with the wife and did not buy a guitar. We bought a mattress. All right. Sure. Andrew Collins says, I made a promise to myself I'm not buying another guitar after buying 15. I cannot say anything about that. Okay, I'm seeing Marcus Miller owns Sire.
Interesting.
Okay.
So did they start out as bass models and then they branched into guitars?
Sounds like it. It seems to me, Sire basses were around for quite a while.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's
But it's one of those, it's a bass brand, it's like bass amps. You're like, I remember them. Meanwhile, they're everywhere.
That kind of rings a bell, I think. It's like, sounds familiar, and yet you're not really sure.
Yep. Typical guitar players. We're just only guitar stuff.
Oh, it's it's a Glary Carlton. All right. That sounds about right.
Gary just bought a couple made in Japan Fender Aerodyne Strats and Tellys from Fender. Beautiful instruments. Yes.
So I realized the other day why I like my MIJ Strats usually more than my MIA Strats. The neck width at the nut is just a little bit thinner, and I like that. So a lot of Strat necks are 42 millimeters. That's like just straight up 42 millimeters.
Right.
Some of them are 42.8, and you notice it. It's almost 43. You feel that difference in the width side to side of the nut. The MIJs are like 41 and a quarter. So so they have one right in the middle at 42. A little bit on the thicker side with the 42.8, but I prefer the MIJ style, which is like 41.25. Much better, I think, and for me anyway.
Yeah, I enjoy narrow, small, Little girth front to back is fine, but keep it narrow.
It's the side to side that gets me kind of screwed up.
Yeah. What's up, Bozique? Or Spiros?
Which is why when Gibson went to those like 0 fret, right, with the metal nut,
right,
that nut was actually a little bit wider than their normal carve. Not much, just a tiny bit, but it did raise the width of the neck.
Right.
It's like, 0.3 millimeters, something like that. But you notice it, like, wow, this neck really feels chunky,
Right.
And it's because to accommodate that nut, they had to go just a hair wider. But you can tell, you're like, wow, this neck is thick. 2015 was when they almost all had them.
What's up, Cheech?
Seen this freaking cat? He's back.
Andrew says, I love that soft V-neck. I love a soft V-neck. Yes, Andrew. I'm still haunted by a 57 Telly I played at Carter's once with the soft V-neck. It was just amazing.
Oh, yeah? I like, I have a hard V-neck on my 54, my ST54. And I had a soft V-neck on that. I don't have it anymore on the Eric Johnson model. I prefer the hard V-neck. It is a little bit smaller, but again, it's the MIJ, and it's probably just a touch thinner.
It's just a little bit narrower.
Not right. It's just like literally that, half a millimeter narrower at the nut that I'm noticing, and I'm like, oh, maybe I like the hard V better, but it's not really that. It's really the side to side. It's just a little slimmer, and I prefer that.
Exactly. Excuse me. Yeah, same way. Herb asks, so Ben and Steve, have you played the newer Charvel guitars? And if so, what's your opinion on them?
I have not. I tend, when I go out to Guitar Center, I tend to just look in the used section. I don't really like test out and play like a lot of new guitars, because to be honest, I'm probably not going to buy it. Probably more likely to buy a used guitar by far.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's like, I just don't want to waste their time. And I don't want, as someone who worked in a music store for a long time, there are a lot of people that just go in there and just play guitars all day. I never wanted to be that guy, right? That just goes in and wastes time. No, zero interest in spending any money. Just looking in there to kill some time, try out a few guitars and see what they like. I like this one, I like that one. What I like, kill a few hours. So I don't, I don't really go and check out like new guitars that come out. I have heard that Guitar Center is doing a quiet sale on some of the Gibson Les Pauls, and they're discounting the models that are being discontinued and replaced with the new round. So like all the standards and the classics,
right?
New colors, and they're quietly putting the old ones on a little bit of extra sale.
Right.
And if you go and ring it up, the discounts can be substantial from what I understand.
Nice.
Like $900 off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. What's up, Mark Taft? Great to see you, my friend. I have played a couple of the newer Charvels.
No way.
Oh yeah. I got a deal now with the local Long and McQuaid that I get to go in, use one of their lesson rooms, and shoot as many cheap demos as I want. And that, as long as I mention the store in the video, and so kind of a quid pro quo situation. Sure. So I played the model. I want to say it's the SoCal with the pick guard and HSH with the pick guard.
Okay.
Which, I don't know. Charvel with the pick guard looks weird. I'm just saying it now. It's like a Kramer with a pick guard. It's just weird.
Yeah. Kind of. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Although I did have a hardtail one, just a dual humbucker hardtail was great.
Pretty sure I had a Pacer Deluxe at one point. That had a pick guard on it. But I know what you're saying. It doesn't feel right. Most of their stuff didn't have pick guards.
Right. Simon Haas, the legend himself, says, caught up with Nuno last night. Had a chat after their show here in Melbourne. Man, they're all playing great. Was an awesome show. Well, give Nuno my best, and I'm expecting him to, come on at some point.
Come on, Nuno. The next time Ed cancels.
Do an episode on Steve's channel in-house, right? Nuno's still based in Boston, is he not?
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Come on by. I'll make some onion dip.
Right? Perfect. Andrew Collins says, I got the new Charvel in the white with the gold hardware. Classy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the last one I played, I was kind of disappointed. It was primer gray in satin. And I was just, what was this, a Friday? And they went, well, it's technically painted. I'll call it a day. Just ready to be refinished by anyone. Crowbar says, used to see Extreme all the time at the living room in Providence in the 80s.
Nuno's always done the natural look.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's always done the natural finish guitar. Bobby has a couple of them. He drove up to Portland, Maine about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And waited outside for Nuno to come out and had him sign the guitar. And took a pic with him. Proof of Nuno.
Proof of Nuno, right? They're great playing guitars, I will say.
They are. It's got this crazy neck heel, if you've ever played one.
Yeah. All the access.
Right.
What's up, Daryl? Guitar Man 45 says, last night I paid attention to my Carvins, gave them some love. He's got quite the collection of vintage Carvins. I'm just going to say.
You know, who didn't have, I mean, I don't know if it was as big a thing up in Canada, but I was on the Carvin mailing list for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to get those catalogs. And some of those guitars, it's like, my God, just what incredible, like, flame this and quilt that, and like all the stuff in there, the M22 pickups, of course. But, you know, for me, like, guitar, Carvin, as far as like a guitar brand, just because of this, like, this dude from the neighborhood who played guitar, just because he had like a Honda Les Paul with Carvin M22 pickups in it.
Ooh.
And I was like, Carvin M22 pickups, what? He's like, yeah, Carvin M22s, bro. Playing through his crate amp that literally looked like a crate. Right. And then they threw a distortion plus, you know. It was the sound. It was the style at the time. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, Carvin, they're kind of this like direct company. And they make amps and PA systems. And I got on the mailing list. That was probably 1980. And man, I was probably on that mailing list for 10 or 15 years.
Right. I remember I had a few catalogs growing up. My dad was on the mailing list for a while.
Yeah.
I remember, because all of a sudden, you know, and you didn't think anything of it as a kid. All of a sudden, like, well, you know, there's a Sears catalog, there's another catalog. Oh, Carvin. I'm like, ooh, what's this? You know, yeah. This looks way cooler to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some of the, I just remember some of the finishes, and they would show how you could customize it. Right. And you could choose like your level of top, you know, I mean, they really would break it down.
Mm-hmm.
They always had like a, you know, Frank Zappa with the PA systems and the giant mixing boards.
Yeah.
Everything just looked so cool. I wanted like one of everything.
Back in the days of powered mixing boards that took 2 guys to carry the 80-pound 12-channel mixer. I remember my dad had a PV one. Yeah. 2-man lift for the PV mixer, where the road case it was only half a case. I would just clasp onto the top, and remember that thing was huge and heavy. But that was the 80s. Oh, gotta have a powered board. Don't waste your time with separate power amps. So I was like, yeah, who would want to make an extra trip?
Yeah, right. Right. Well, yeah, everything was like, well, in the real early years, it was like a Shure Vocal Master. Right,
yeah,
old tube that wasn't even grounded. It's like that. Oh God, those are like you get shocked. You touch the microphone, it would be like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I'm trying to think of what we had for PA after that. I want to say, might have been Sun, Sunn,
Mm-hmm.
right?
They were big into PA systems, I remember.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like Sun PA or something like that. I forget. PV. Of course, everything was mismatched. I had like PV, like 15s with radial horns and.
Sure.
God.
PV ruled this area because it was all country music. And you'd show up at a multi-band gig, and it was just the back line was just 25 PV logos from stage left to stage right.
I remember Samick emerging as a brand. Of course, they had been around for a while, but they came out as a brand in like the maybe like 89 or 90, you know, somewhere around there, like late, right around 90, 91. And we got this like Samick mixer that was like stunningly nice. I was like, wow, looks pretty good. And a stereo, you know, big giant looked like a crown, but it was, you know, it was more like a crap, right? It was like this terrible you know, big power amp, stereo power amp. But I would run my keyboards into it. I would run my Boss ME5 into it, run a cab simulator. It's like, my God, I used to use that friggin' system like for so much back in the day, between the two PV cabs and the electronic drums. Would plug that through. I was like one of the earliest guys to have electronic drums because I worked in the music store, right? You know, and what would happen is someone would come in and want to like trade pads in, but they didn't really have like a control box. But then you could get like something else, and I got like a Roland Octapad used, and that Octapad can take those pads. Right. It looked like a bunch of extra pads in addition to what was built in. So you go from like having like no sound and just buying all these stupid pads that they couldn't do anything with, to like plugging them in and it's actually friggin' working. I'm like, oh my God. And the drummers come over and they're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And so I guess it was using the Roland R8 for the sounds, which sounded incredible. Some of them have these like big gates on it, you know, like, you know, sort of like that big 80s sound, and drummers would come over and be like, oh my God, I love this. This is so much fun. Of course, that
all the Phil Collins covers with those.
Yeah, that wears off. But man, those PAs, you know, pumping those 15s with the horns, you know, cranking that up. You probably said something like 800 watts RMS, but it was like more like 80. It was like garbage. Once you got past like very little bit, it was already breaking up. Terrible amps.
Presley says, I'm definitely a PV guy. Same here. When I got into doing live sound about 10, 12 years ago, I went and bought a PV power amp, and I saw a guy had a pair of 80s PVS-P2 PA cabs used. They needed speakers, so I went out, got brand new Black Widow speakers, which are now Kevlar impregnated. I went, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. See, I couldn't really get PV because we weren't a PV dealer. And God forbid I went to our competitor and bought a PV product. My people I worked for, they would have collectively lost their minds. So I would only get it. The only reason why I had those PVs is because they probably came in on trade. And I was like, well, I'll take these PVs off your hand if you want to put a PV product on the floor. Let's get them out of here. Let's not leave a
save you the hassle
out here. You know, and they'd be like, yeah.
Right. That's true. Mike Cross's daddy's was all PV. Okay.
Yeah. Daddy's was all PV. Was that Fred Bramante? Yeah. God, they had expanded into the Midwest, but then it all came tumbling down. They got shut down by, I want to say, GE Capital. They went to GE Capital for like 3 mil or 5 mil, something like that, and they wouldn't let them go through the Christmas season. They folded in October. of like 2010 or 2011.
Okay.
Daddies, yeah.
It's too bad. Hey, there's my lovely sister. So sorry I'm late. Quite all right. What's up, Ripley? Guitar Man 45 says he likes was it the PV's Classic 50s. He's got 3 of them. Wow. He's got a lot of gear, that man. He's got a lot of gear. I'm just saying. We do Zoom hangs once, twice a month with the channel members, and he's always the showstopper. He gets on there and he'll pull out the Carvin, vintage 70s Carvin with quilt top, or everybody was showing off PRS guitars the one day, and he lets it slip. Well, the 90s 10 tops are still in their cases. I was like, oh, so vintage 10 tops, eh? That's great. That's let's dig those out for a show. I'd love to see those.
I think PRS, some of those 10 tops from there's a certain era where they are just stunning.
Yeah.
There was sort of a good wood era.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. Sometimes I see what they call a 10 top, and I'm like, really? And then other ones, I'm like, how is this top not a 10 top? This top is stunning.
Right.
But they say it isn't.
Charles 75N says, I'm still recovering from that. I bet you are. What's up, Terry Himes? Good to see you. So, any recent gear acquisitions or wants on the radar?
Not really. You've seen the Volas I've got recently in the Kramer with the graphic. That's really it. I have a Donner that will be coming out at the end of this month. I thought it was supposed to come out on the 29th of August, but they were like, no, 29th of September. So that's kind of like a rocker guitar. Quite frankly, kind of looks like a Mayonis.
Mm-hmm.
So
sure,
that'll be out by the end of the month. That's about it.
Patrick says I had a PV Butcher head. It was gnarly. I bet. Oh yeah, my knees hurt. Really wants an SG Junior, red, 1 pickup. Yep, I get it. What's up, Stephen Douglas? You did. You're late, but you made it. That's fine. What about those new Les Paul colors? Andrew saying, yeah, we're mentioning that a little earlier. There's some really that fuchsia. There was something about that fuchsia.
Well, it's very striking, that's for sure. It's not a conservative color at all, which is what they usually use.
Right.
Gibson's very conservative. Fender will make much brighter, and out there colors. Gibson tends to stick with earth tones and, darker blues and stuff like that. So it was nice to see them do something a little bit more vibrant. I know. I tell you, we can't talk about it, Surfy. The humidity is killing me right now. It is so freaking brutal down here. And I'm running 2 dehumidifiers plus central air.
I've just got it down to 60 in here for the first time, like in the last week, because I'd come down here and it'd be 78% humidity.
Right.
I was thinking, man, and I haven't even cracked a window in here,
Yeah.
But then you look and it's 72 degrees out because it's 10 p.m. and the dew point's at 71 because it's 71% humidity still.
Yeah.
Great.
Brutal. Absolutely.
Richard Clark, what's up? He says, pretty sure my next purchase will be that light blue 60s Les Paul with the natural back. That was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, the backs are lighter and some of the colors.
Charles says, what is this 60 you speak of? Yeah, Charles is outside of Austin, Texas, where it's been triple digits for the last 3 months, and he's just about had enough of it.
Yeah.
He's trying to customize guitars out in the non-air conditioned garage this year. It's not working out at all.
Yeah, we have it's just the humidity has just been just off the charts this season. This is like one of the wettest, and just usually we have a break, a little break here and there. We have had some breaks. I can't say that we didn't, because I remember at the beginning of August, we had a couple of days where the dew point got down into like the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
That's really dry. That's pretty good. That's acceptable.
Yeah.
And then again, like right before this last like friggin' bout started, we had like a few days. It's like a touch of fall. It's like crispy and cool. I was like, oh, nice. Here we go. Get rid of that whole summer thing, and here we go. But boy, summer came punching right back in the face.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's Mark Taft in the chat here. I was supposed to get together with him last week. He was going to come over and give me a hand. I need put a cap back on my pickup truck and it's a long box, 8-foot long cap. I'm like, I'm not carrying that in 95-degree heat. And so that's why I haven't been in touch, Mark. Hopefully this week things will cool off and we can get that on the truck. That would be nice.
Well, that's what was killing us. Like when Speaker was giving me a hand, we were fine until we had the you start to break a sweat. Those sheets of plywood weigh between like 90 and 100 pounds each, right? Because they're so wet with the pressure treatment, right, to make them anti-rot, anti-fungal, anti-insect. They're and you go deep down into the pile to get ones that are straight, and they get wetter and wetter the more you go into the pile. Yep. So we have to move like 4 or 5 of them off just to get to the first ones that are straight, and they're getting heavier and heavier. You're already breaking a sweat before you've even pulled one board off that you're going to keep. We had to get 5 of them. We barely squeezed 5 of them onto the cart and got out, and then we got out into the sun, and man, that sun was beaten down. We were putting those sheets in the back. We got like 3 of them on the back. I said, you know what? Let me just go sit in the car for a second and cool off. I'm going to have a friggin' heart attack. I'm going to have a goddamn heat stroke. Right. And he's like, yeah, do it. So I got in the car and cooled off for a bit and left it running with the AC cranked. We did the last 2. We took like a 2-minute break. Did the last. I toweled off. Luckily, I keep paper towels with me in the car. Toweled off, and I said, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this. Got the last 2. And those, just putting the floor in that day, it was so friggin', hot and humid. And then, then the next day they were like, oh, it's going to get worse. And it was a lot worse. You had to come back and do that second part, and it was much worse the next day. You were in the shade most of the day, but it didn't matter. The humidity was just a beat down. Just a beat down.
Yeah. Yeah, and as soon as, if there's any breeze, it's great, but as soon as the breeze stops, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, you just stand out there. Don't do a thing. And you're just dripping with sweat because there's no place for it to go, right? Yep. The air is so saturated with moisture, and you cool down through evaporation. You ain't evaporating anything.
Nope. Exactly. Surf BS, he says, so Ben, I asked Steve about doing a Kiesel build last night. What about you? Yeah, I will do a Kiesel build when Kiesel explains to me why they're at NAMM shows. For a show designed to sell to music stores, a company that sells direct to the public is at something that the public's not allowed to get into. But yeah. Until that's explained to me, I'm not doing business with them. That's the way it is. I never understood that. I think they're just there for rock stars to have impulse purchases. That's why Kiesel's at NAMM.
I will never give them a hard time about that because they had Alan Holdsworth there. And I got to meet him, and I got his autograph and a pic with him. And he passed away like 12 weeks later. And I was like, oh, thank God I got to meet him. I could not. I was so stunned because he did not seem out of it when I met him. He seemed fine, but oh God.
What's up, Rob? And Rob. My sister's trying. Can of worms is what you got right there. Well, yeah. Now, Kiesel treats my friend Johnny Highland very well. So, on the other hand, I know someone else that tried to get a kill switch installed in their guitar at the Kiesel factory, and they screwed up 2 of them installing. I'm like, it's 2 wires going to the output jack. How do you screw that up?
Right.
They somehow wrecked 2 switches in the process. I don't know.
You had to press it down to make sound.
Right. Bent Thomas says, who else is staring at the screen while practicing arpeggios?
Oh.
Yep. And Jose says, same. I'm so glad I met him right before he died. Oh, so Jose met Alan as well.
Yeah.
There. Presley celebrating lifestyle choices. Sure.
They also usually have some pretty interesting guitars there. Some really eye-catching showstoppers at the Kiesel booth.
My sister says, speaking of which, I want to install my Tesi Switch, Ben. Guess who gets to help me with that?
And by help, she means do it completely, all of it, and just hand it back to her completely done.
Yeah. That's exactly what that is. Which guitar am I installing it in, Amanda?
And with a smile.
Yep. And do you want me to do that? Pick up the guitar tomorrow? Because I will be seeing her tomorrow. Gonna go visit my dad. So. Oh, she wants to do it. All right. Even better. More cursing from her, less cursing from me. What's up, Dustin? And Charles wants it done live, of course. All right. Alan. Andrew Collins asks, you guys going to NAMM?
I don't know yet. Part of me says yes, I'd like to go. I haven't been in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Let's see how the flight. Let's see what the cost is, because it had really ballooned up, and I used to be able to go for like about $1,200-$1,500. Now it's around $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so expensive to go.
Yeah.
So
that's true. That is true.
Quite frankly, I like the Dallas show better, and you can get really inexpensive flights to Dallas. I like going to Nashville better, but I think the Summer NAMM is pretty much over. But that was a very inexpensive flight. There's there were alternatives, for a while, but right now NAMM might kind of only be it. And last time I checked, the flights were kind of pricey.
Okay, so my sister wants me to, or she wants to install her kill switch in the Jazzmaster. Okay, so we'll need to either eliminate the tone control or add a hole. Either way, that's fine. Coots is asking, Ben, how did your Kramer turn out? Oh, turned out very well. Oh. For those wondering, the custom Kramer Beretta Special.
Oh.
Fabric wrapped.
Really?
Yeah. Charles 75N in the chat here has started custom wrapping guitars in the last couple of years. Yeah.
And then it's finished on top of that?
Yeah. And then, I don't know, like 14,000 coats of clear, and then he buffs it out to about 15,000. Something crazy.
Yeah.
What do we do? Put DiMarzio Super Distortion in it. And, yeah.
Now, when you look through the finish, can you see the fabric fibers?
Certain spots, yes. If you look really close, which is the cool part, because you're like, oh yeah, that's really cool paint. Oh wow, that's not paint.
Yeah, right. Well, that's how the that Ibanez was.
Right.
I forget the name of it now, but the one with the curtain.
Keep forgetting I got a spare spot over there since I got rid of the base.
The one with the drapes for a finish.
Right. Rob Blackmore official. He says, is the Squire 50s classic vibe worth it, Ben and Steve?
Yeah, Michael, the Floral Gem. That's the one.
Yeah, I'd say the classic vibes are still worth it. They're pretty good guitars.
Looks like Bobby's here.
Nice. Yeah, what's up, Bobby? There's Charles 75N, maker of the fabric wraps. He's got... Oh, yeah, the last one he's doing a Hurley Benton Warlock shaped object, and figuring out all those corners is causing him to get all the gray hair, I swear. So
Yeah,
people should check it out. Check out Charles's channel. That's what I'm saying, folks. Bobby says the classic vibes are great in his opinion. Andrew agrees.
Those are real good. Probably the best Squire. One of the best Squires ever made. Classic vibe.
John ZD351, what's up, buddy? He says, Ben, stop doing these shows during my working hours. I keep missing most of it. So now 2% of the chat is from Melbourne. That's fine. Let's see. Stephen Douglas says, am I confused or is Pete Thorne? He says he has the old ML single coils in his HSS signature, but the ML pickup is called the V63 Plus. His signature has the V63s without the plus. I don't know. That's a Pete Thorne question.
That's best.
I know I played a Pete Thorne signature guitar once, and it was the dual humbucker model.
Yeah.
Haas is here, John, the legend himself.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, what do we got here? Surfby. So, guys, a neighbor moved and threw out a Univox professional bass, made in Japan 70s. It's a P-bass copy. Ever heard of these? It plays good. Oh, yeah. Well aware of the Univoxes.
Yeah. So does it on the back, on the back plate, does it say steel reinforced neck? Does it say that on that? Because the same factory made a bunch of different brands, but the sort of the calling card would be steel reinforced neck.
Right.
Then it was made by like Matsushita or something like that. I forget the company. And the other big one was Fujijin. But he made like Aria, maybe Washburn. There was a few brands.
Right.
That would say steel reinforced neck on the back.
Let's see here. Rob Blackburn's in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. Nice. That's where my dad grew up. Awesome. Steve Rezer says, why have Winter Nam after Christmas? Have it before and have things ready. That's what Summer Nam used to be for.
Because it takes them not 9 to 10 months to actually make the gear based on the orders they get in January for the following Christmas.
Exactly.
In other words, they can't take orders in in October or November because they could never get them out in time.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get the orders in January, start shipping sometime in the spring and over the summer, and have everybody well stocked for Christmas like that year. It really does take a long time. Yeah, Matsumoku. That's West Tone, Aria, and Vantage. There you go. Buddy, are you okay?
Yeah, the Winter Nam was traditionally for the spring release stuff, spring to summer, and then you had Summer Nam, which would be anything coming out during the year to get out in time for Christmas, and that was in July.
Yeah, but the Summer Nam came much later. There was just one Nam show for the longest time.
Yeah.
That was just a money grab.
An excuse to hang out in Nashville for a few days, which, hey, we're okay with that.
In fact, they wouldn't even call it Winter Nam. It was just Nam.
Yeah.
It wasn't called Winter Nam back then. The first Summer Jam I ever went to was, I think, in 1990 or 1991, and it was in Framingham, Massachusetts. Buddy, I'm going to kill you, bro.
Richard Clark says, I'm not from Australia, but I'm down under the stairs in my studio. Does that count? Sure.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Come on, bud. You got to go, bud, man. I'm going to start carrying him upstairs.
Let's see here. Jeff K asked, Steve, does the North End still have a solid rock club scene? It used to be the shit from what I've heard.
No, not the North End. The North End is basically restaurants and pastry shops, and that's it. But mostly, the North End. Yeah, no, the North End is mostly the clubs. Were next to. We're in Back Bay and then the Fens. They were in on Lansdowne Street. That's where most of your clubs were. And Kenmore Square. Kenmore Square had a bunch of clubs. Was like right around the corner from that. That's where a lot of the clubs were. Then you had some in Brookline, like Bunratty's, the Cambridge, like Night Stage, all gone. And there was one in the South End, what they would call the Seaport now. And that was the Channel, and they're gone. That turned into a parking lot. It was like a murder. There's something going on there. Big murder.
Right.
Like some internal crap. Really, it was Kenmore Square, like Davis Square, right? Like some Cambridge spots. Those were really it.
Bobby says the North Shore had the rock pile.
I don't remember that. I remember Bunratty's, the Rat, Lipstick, Celebration, Axis, Avalon, the Channel, the Roxy, of course, the Paradise, the Middle East, Night Stage, Johnny T's Uptown, all gone. Except Paradise. Paradise is the only one that's still there. Paradise is still going. What was the other one? Geez. It's a kind of a jazz club. Jonathan Swift's.
Okay.
And then there was a blues club. What was the name of that blues club? I can't think of it now. Yeah, right. Narcissus. That was the other one in Kenmore Square. They were part of Narcissus, Lipstick, and Celebration. Were all owned by the same group. The Middle East is still around. Paradise is still there. That's about it.
Christopher says, you need your guitar in your hands. I know the feeling.
No. It's the only thing.
That's Saturdays with Steve.
I know.
I'll be doing the same thing tomorrow night myself. I'll be doing some playing. Charles has an interesting question. Does Steve have a favorite riff that he likes to use to see if he's going to bond with a guitar?
Not really. You can kind of tell pretty quickly whether you like the neck or not. At this point, I know what I like. You know.
Mm-hmm. So you usually find before you even fret a chord, even just touching it, you're like, pretty much right away.
You know, the reality is just 90% of a guitar is a fashion accessory.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Riles was a jazz club. They were in Inman Square. Oh, they on Hampshire Street. A few different ones. But Riles is gone. These places can't make the kind of money that they can with, like when I think of, some of the places in Back Bay that were there, all these like little um, like pizza shops, magazine shops, gone. They can't stay. The rents are just, and they're putting Starbucks in, and
Right.
and Chipotle's and stuff. They need big national chains with big deep pockets.
Mm-hmm. Bobby says he used to play the Causeway. It's gone now. Scott brings up a good point. Yeah, weight as much as anything else is a factor for me for guitars. Even though I don't play standing up much anymore.
Yeah. I think when it gets too heavy, it does become a bit of a slog to hold on to it, a long time. I probably prefer the lighter guitars, for long-term use. It definitely makes a difference. Those Volas with the mahogany bodies, they weight relieve those. They pull like a kilogram of weight off of those bodies.
Okay. Okay, Richard Clark was talking about resonance. Yeah, I get it. It's like if a guitar is loud acoustically, an electric guitar that's loud acoustically is going to be usually a really good sounding and playing guitar. I found.
I think they just did the Saint Anthony's feast in the North End. So I remember going there when I was like a teenager, because even if you weren't, of age, you could still go get a vodka slush. You get a lemon slush and then fill it up with vodka for you.
Nice. Ah, those were the days.
Yeah.
Mad Raj is saying mini LP. Those are lightweight.
Yeah, not that one. That one weighs a ton. I think it's heavy, and it's got a pretty chunky neck too.
Right. Yeah, because isn't the neck design basically like they cut off the last 3 frets?
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but it's. I think maybe they worry that it's not robust enough to hold the weight of the strings, but it's a chunky neck on that thing.
Mm-hmm. So a bunch of people talk about either they play standing up or sitting.
I always laugh when people say that you probably can't play when you stand up, and I'm like, did you even listen to yourself? Like, of course I can. I just don't, because it's like it's easier to sit. I usually play sitting down like 90% of the time.
Mm-hmm. So, what's up, Ian? Speaking of sitting down while playing, show something I picked up earlier this year.
Oh, yeah?
Dun, dun, dun.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a 2016 76 reissue, except it has the wrong color knobs. I know that because Hip Metalworks in the chat has a 76 Explorer, and he has the amber knobs and not black.
Right. I like the black. I think it works with the pickup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the black top pickups, which they do have. Some of the bobbins are gold, so it's like you remove the gold covers off of them.
It really ties the room together.
It does. It does nicely. Yeah. So yeah, picked this up in June. I've been talking about it for a few months, and we're searching. Long McQuaid here finally took a page out of Guitar Center's book and consolidated all their used gear into one site, as opposed to you had to select by store to see everybody's used gear, and then they nationalized it. And so looking around there, and we're looking around and trying to find something. And then I was in Long McQuaid one day, and I'm like, well, let's just search through the database.
Right.
And so they happen to find this sitting out in Prince Edward Island, not listed on the website as used, probably because there's an employee that had his eyes on it or something. And so I said, well, send it to Ontario. Let's take a look at it. And Suntry says, but how does it sound? It's hot pickups. They're the hot shots. Whew.
Right.
I plugged it into the Fender, and I was like, "What overdrive pedals on?" Because it was breaking up the clean channel of my Blues Deluxe, which nothing has ever done before.
Right.
So we lower the pickups. I don't know, 7 rounds on the screws.
Yeah, that's to tame them a little bit. Sometimes you do have to back them off quite a bit.
And it didn't really darken it up or anything, so I was happy with that. Cheech says, Ben, have you ever been to the Long McQuaid in Toronto, the flagship store? Yes, I have, in fact, once. We went in there looking to buy a new backline for the band. And then our business manager was looking at the prices of the gear, and the new backline changed real quick to, well, maybe we'll just get some new gear to offset the existing gear. So, yeah, because I was looking at getting a Les Paul and a Marshall of some kind. Pretty standard fare.
I don't have the classic Vibe Telly anymore. I gave that to my son.
Huh.
I don't have the Epiphone anymore either. I gave that to him too. Oh, buddy. Come on, bud. Yeah, you wearing out your welcome, bud.
Yeah, my sister felt like a toddler holding the Explorer. That's true. The first thing, it was funny because, I was heading over to her place right after I picked it up. And you don't realize how large a hardshell case for an Explorer is until, you get it like inside and you have to manage up a set of stairs. She's like, what is that, a coffee table? Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever owned an Explorer. The closest I came was a Harley Benton Explorer style.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave that away too. I gave that away to a friend of mine who I knew was way into that Explorer style guitar.
Sure.
And I said, here you go. What I should have done, and I should have known, I should have just ripped. It had some nice EMG retro active Super 70s pickups in them.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the sound of those pickups. I should have ripped those out because that's the first thing he did was he ripped those pickups out and put passive pickups in. And I should have just pulled those out and said, here, you can have the body.
Right.
And kept the pickups. I would have used them in something. I would find something that sounds crappy and I could stick them in and make it sound infinitely better.
What's up, James Hawking? Yeah, I hear that. They do a thing similar to a Les Paul, but not, sort of like an SG, similar to a Les Paul, but not.
Right.
They do their own thing. Have I ever been to Steve's Music in downtown Toronto? Yes, that's the first place I ever played a Marshall amp. I walked in there, I want to say it was 1990, 1991, and I just remember they had hanging over top all the different color Strats that you would ever want, including a few, well, those were Stratocasters, and then some Strats with the sort of spray paint name Strat, which was essentially a Charvel Kramer type guitar. Right. And then a whole line of Marshall half stacks and full stacks. And I went, oh. I was like, can I try one of these? And the guy's like, sure, man. He could tell. He's, where are you from? Told him. Okay. First time in the city? No, but first time in here. I said, yeah, sure. What kind of guitar do you play at home? I said, Les Paul. Okay. Grabbed a Les Paul, plugged it into the Marshall, and told the coworker, hey, he's going to crank it up for a minute. And they're like, we get it. It's the downtown Toronto guitar shop. They get idiots walking in probably every day cranking up Marshalls. So,
yeah,
they let me play for a few minutes, which I did not want to because obviously, Marshall at stage volume. 16-year-old me is just like, all right, I'll play Louie badly a couple times and call it a day. Michael Kress asks, what local non-GC stores do you go to, Steve?
There's really not many left. The only one I really go to would be, and I haven't been there in a while, is Matt's Music. They're pretty small, but still one of the only ones left that's pretty big. All the other ones are gone, you know. All the ones in Back Bay are all closed down. The only thing left is Guitar Center. And so, you know, I usually get most of my stuff online. I usually get most of my stuff used. Go to Guitar Center used, and just, you know, I usually buy that way.
Same.
You know, Mr. Music, he doesn't really do, he does, you know, local sales, you know, but he does a lot of online. He's mostly transitioned to online sales. So like Reverb, used to be eBay, then Reverb.
Right. I get it. I think, yeah, we're down to just the 2 shops in town now. I buy used whenever possible, Rob.
Yeah. The depreciation is even more massive than like a car. Yeah. And even a car like has parts to wear out that guitars really don't. You know, we're still talking about guitars that were built in the, you know, the 50s and 60s.
Exactly. Yeah, once they lose that value right off the bat from being new, then you can usually get back out of it whatever you put into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to that music go around in Natick. You know, the only problem when I go there is like, it feels like every guitar has like a massive ding in it. Like, and then the last time I went there, I think I went there with Speaker, and it was like, he had like 2 or 3 dudes that were like playing like so loud, and Speaker's looking at me. I go, this is why you don't want to work in a music store. And I just saw some dude come in with like an acoustic guitar that looked like garbage. I think they wanted to give him like $10 for it, like so bad. And you know, they had a couple of interesting guitars, but like I was telling Speaker, I go, it's like almost every single one of these, it's like, you know, it looks cool and all, but then you get up close, you're like, oh my God, there's like this big chip out of it, or there's like this big ding somewhere.
Right.
And it's like they had looked like a lot of scratch and dent.
What's up, Mike? He says, ever been to Carlino Guitars in Medford?
No, I know of it, but you got to remember Medford's on the other side of the city from me. I'm in the southwest, and they're in the northeast. So
that's a hassle.
Yeah.
RJ, those aren't dings. Those are tone craters. You pay extra for those.
Exactly.
Right. Andrew gets all his gear from Sweetwater. Some stuff, sure, but I don't know. Something about, like, I like to be able to an easy return policy if I don't bond with a guitar, and I still have a hard time buying a guitar sight unseen.
Well, that's why I like Guitar Center used, because if I don't like the guitar, I can just throw it in the back of the car and drive it right over to there and get my full refund minus my shipping if I just don't like it. Yeah. But if there's a problem with it, I usually get my shipping back too. If it shows up, I say, hey, this guitar has issues, and then they'll give me my shipping back too. If it's just, you know what, I don't care for it, then I don't even ask. I don't even want the shipping back. I'm like, that's fine. I can't expect you to ship it to my house for me to try out and then decide whether or not I like it. And you have 45 days to make a return. So yeah, it's a pretty long test period.
That's what they wanted me to do with that Explorer at first. They're like, well, you know, buy it online, and if you don't like it, I say, yeah, but if I return it, I assume I'm out the cost of shipping. It's like, yes. I'm like, how about this? How about you do an interstore transfer? Once it's here, you call me and I'll try it.
Yeah, they won't do that. They won't do that at Guitar Center. They won't transfer used guitars.
I had to put a down payment for them to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah. I said, but am I fully refunded? Said down payment. And so with witnesses, I was like, yeah. I'm like, okay, let's do it, because, and that, so yeah. So I think I paid the sales tax roughly, which was like 10%.
before the pandemic, I almost always had it shipped to my local store. And I would open it up there and check it out. And I would return a bunch like instantly and be like, no, this guitar, what the hell is this?
Right.
No. And, but then when the pandemic happened, that sort of ended. And then I didn't care. I stopped having it shipped to the store, just have it shipped here. And if I don't like it, I'll bring it back. They're really good about giving me all the money back. They never really gave me a hard time ever.
Let's see. Guitar Man says here in Detroit, go-to was Fiddler's music back in the day. Okay, and then Motor City in the 90s. That's fine. And Steven says he bought his first new guitar at EU Wurlitzer's back in 79.
I bought my first new guitar at EU Wurlitzer's in 81. My dad got it for me for Christmas. And then
nice. Guitar Man saying they'll give him 60 days as a trial on a guitar. That's decent. Thank you, Terry, for links to the socials.
The Kramer know the Strat.
Okay.
Friend of the Strat. I didn't know the Kramer until 84.
I've never been to Cosmo. Yes, if you go on the channel, Rob, the last 3 Cosmo Fests, which is their version of Sweetwater's Gear Fest, I did little vlogs, which this year was severely disappointing. Saw the whole thing in about half an hour. And instead of having real bands, Steve, they had tribute bands.
Nice.
Yeah, which it was interesting. We actually had Billy Baloney came up from Cleveland for the weekend, and we met up there. It's funny because the first band playing was a Bryan Adams tribute, and you get about 50 minutes in the set, and he's like, "Wow, Bryan had a lot of hits, didn't he?" Because I'm recognizing, I'm like, yeah. He had. Whereas a Canadian, that was just our soundtrack growing up because of required Canadian programming on Canadian radio. But I was like, yeah, he had quite a few hits. So. And then an Elton John tribute after that, which is it's a little much for 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm just saying.
There was a guy at the NAMM show that did a full-on Elton tribute. He sounded like him. He really did. He could play and sing. He did sound like. He looked like him too. And the full, like Dodgers, sparkle outfit.
Sure.
And he was good. I have to say.
That's right, Bobby. It's like Tom Petty. You forget all the hits. Exactly. Yeah. I was fortunate. I saw Tom on his last tour, and I remember leaving the show, and I was like, he didn't even do, and I named out like 4 or 5 of my favorite songs that he didn't do. But I was still totally okay with the set he did do because he has that many hits.
I remember I went to go see Bowie on the Greatest Hits tour. And it was just hit after hit after hit after hit. And as we were leaving, I ran into a friend of mine. And he goes, "How does he do the greatest hits and doesn't do Starman?" I was like, boy, what an attitude. What a friggin' attitude. You probably knew you wanted to hear it.
Yeah, Mellencamp too, John. Very true.
Well, I went to go see a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, I got an extra ticket to see Foreigner," and Joe Walsh was opening up. This was in like '86. So we went, and first of all, you forget how many Joe Walsh was killing it. You're like, "Oh my God, I forgot all the killer Joe Walsh songs." Joe Walsh sounded so freaking good. And then Foreigner came out, and I figured I might know half the songs. I knew every song but one, which was the song off the new album. That's the only one I didn't recognize.
Yeah, that was the opener for Tom Petty was Peter Wolf from Jay Gall's band. And I was like, all right, so I'm going to recognize 3 songs. Nope, recognized a lot. I was like, wow, Jay Gall's band had a lot of hits that I didn't realize.
So, who's the owner of the Indianapolis Colts? Is it Dan Irwin? He's a guitar player. and he's bought up a bunch of, like, he bought Jimi Hendrix's like Monterey Strat. And he throws money at like vintage famous guitars like you can't even believe. Right, this dude.
Right.
I'm sure he owns the Indianapolis Colts, and so he like put together a band, and he hires like Bukovac on guitar. He's got like Kenny Aronoff on drums. He's got Peter Wolf singing and doing all this Jay Giles stuff.
Sure.
Just putting everybody on. Jim Irsay. Yeah, Irsay, not Irwin. Irsay. Yeah. And they're going out as the Jim Irsay band. It reminds me of Ernie Bach around here, you know, like hiring all the dudes from the old Boston band.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you with a couple of bill.
I remember hearing somebody did that, I want to say in the 90s. Like it was someone that made a bunch of money, like in a tech startup, and basically put a band together, then hired a major band to put it and finance their tour just so he can go out on tour opening for that band.
Yeah.
It's like, sure.
Yeah, that bowling ball. It's my wife. That's just then the phone rang. Don't move. The authorities will be right there, right?
I have not seen that
trailer about the movie from Mr. Jimmy. Isn't that June 6, 26? That dude who's been on YouTube forever? Remember that dude like 13 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah, June 626. Dude's been everything, right? He's been playing with what's his name? Jason Bonham.
Okay. We all know, Richard. We all know.
Right, no anchovies, please. That was the moral of the story.
He looks like Page from 73 and he can play. Okay.
Well, he's always done the note for note. That dude's like always done the Page note for note stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt.
That's like our man Simon Hosford in the chat here. Gained fame playing Van Halen 1 note for note, front to back there at the Melbourne Guitar Show a few years ago. And then what was the last one you did? Like Yngwie Malmsteen's Rising Force note for note. That's a lot of notes.
That's a lot of notes.
That's a lot of notes.
The more is more guy.
Right. More is more. Well, yeah. I'm not sure if you need to clean My Knees Hurt or you're quoting song lyrics. I'm not sure. We'll go a few more minutes here, folks. If you have any last questions, get them on in. I can't even play one note for note. You had one chance to hit it. You missed it.
Although the best was this dude interviewing like John Scofield. Now John Scofield is just like amazing. I mean, jazz, very technical. And this dude who's interviewing him with his guitar is like the biggest, you know, dummy you ever saw. And at one point, John Scofield is like, you know, sometimes, and he's talking about like something and about working, you know, in with the, you know, the arrangements and, you know, it was very technical. And the dude goes, yeah, that's like, you know, like Neil Young's like one note solo, you know, in this song. It's like just amazing. It's like one note solo. Like you're completely missing the point. You could just see like just the lifeblood drain out of John's. It's going down
Right.
his face, like, oh my God.
Bobby wants to see the Explorer again. All right. Was Bobby thinking about getting an Explorer? And yes, as somebody had asked earlier, mahogany, body, and neck. We are very clean. Very clean. Like not even wear on the gold hardware, which you always get. So other than that, yeah. Yeah, I haven't dinged it up yet myself either. Well, yet. There we go. Presley says, what about a Ford Explorer? Too heavy to lift up to show on camera. Presley, sorry. And thanks again, Terry, for putting links to Steve's channel in the chat. In case you live under a rock and don't know, Steve.
Thank you.
Live every Saturday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. Always a bunch of fun. And sometimes later if you've been drinking coffee all day.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I try to limit those.
Nice. Let's see here if we missed anything. Richard Clark says water cleanses. There you go. Yep. I think Presley's edibles have kicked in at this point. That's always good to see. Yep. Perfect. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that, Seth. Nothing wrong with that. You worked hard today. You did your show this morning. You're good.
It's a gummy dummy Sunday.
Yep. Ferd says he doesn't own an Explorer yet. Yet, Ferd. We all have things to aspire to. What's up, Josh? He says, we're not as young as we once were. That's true.
I'm not even as young as I was yesterday.
Right?
But luckily, I am younger than I will be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Bo says, yeah, sorry I was late to your show yesterday. He was at a blues festival till 8.
Oh.
There we go. One last question. Sure, Cheech. Are you a married man, Ben? No. Just married to my music and my guitars. Go with that. All right. Ferd says Firebird comes first. That's fine. Firebirds are fine too. That's on my list as well. I want a Firebird now. Actually, I played the current offering from Epiphone in the Firebird department and heavily impressed. Like I remember I was playing, I'm doing the demo on it. I'm thinking, man, I totally gig with this thing. I totally gig with it. Sounds like Firebird, plays like Firebird. I totally gig with this thing. So check those out, folks. And they're a great, good deal. I think they were coming in at like 800 Canadian, 900 Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, that's reasonable.
yeah. What's up, Judge Shred? Great name. There we go. We'll end with his question. He says, Steve, did I hear you mention yesterday that you're trying the St. Rock Imperium modeler? If so, when will you review it?
It's the, I don't know if that's what it is. It's the St. James by Black Star modeler. It's okay. I wasn't planning on doing a full review just because, you know, it's all right. I usually don't review it unless I'm like sort of enamored with it. But, you know, it's got some good mid-push stuff. You know, some stuff really does sound good, but I don't know. Sometimes when you do reviews of that software, it's like the kiss of death. You don't get any views.
Right. I hear you on that.
I don't have a cat showing up.
Again. Well, there we are. It's been a great time hanging out, as always, my friend. And definitely have to do it again when we're older in the future. Yes. So if you haven't already, folks, please subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow night with Canucks with Guitars with Terry's 3Gs and Symmetry and live Q&A. And I'll be playing some jams as well of some kind. I don't know. I got old set lists. I look at them. I used to know these songs, Steve, and it wasn't that long ago. And you think, nope, out of sight, out of mind. But
I know. No, you do.
Yeah.
You got to refresh.
Exactly. So Have a great night, folks. Hold those doors open. Let that lady and Hetty in traffic, and happy tone chasing. And of course, don't litter.